Hey everybody, Professor Malat here with the Week 7 overview. This will be very brief. I don't feel like I need to go into great detail with any explanations. I have provided some other materials that will help explain the whole idea behind rhetorical analysis, and I think that will suffice. So last week you started thinking about the commercial that you want to write about. You've chosen your commercial. And this week we're taking another step towards the rhetorical analysis essay by actually summarizing the commercial. So I'm going to explain that briefly, just so, in case you have any questions about it, this video should answer those questions. So first of all is this idea of text, right? And I think I explained in a previous video that we are kind of expanding our definition of what text is, not only words, things that are word-based, right? Print text that you see, physical text, words on paper, right? But also words on the screen. So we're expanding this notion to include things that also are multimodal or multimedia, right? So things that involve sound and visual aspects. And of course, those things are going to be important, especially if you've chosen a commercial versus a print advertisement. But we're going to be thinking about how all of these things kind of play together. But one of the things that you need to do is you need to be able to summarize what your ad is about. You can't assume that here I showed you the advertisement I've chosen and now you have to remember it, right? I have 20-ish students, 15 to 20 students in this class, plus I have 4 other classes that I'm teaching. So it's not like I will remember every single detail of all of the students in this class. So it's important, first of all, that I be reminded what you're doing. But second of all, you can't assume that the people who are eventually going to read your essay will know what you're talking about. So you need to develop the skill of summarizing what your ad is about so your reader has context, right? And can better understand your analysis. So some of the things that you're going to address in your summary is the title of the ad, right? You're going to once again say what the ad is or who is in the ad, right? Sometimes you don't know what the ad title is. Sometimes you'll see it if you're on YouTube, you might see a title of the video that might be good. But if you can't find the name of the ad, at least include the product or the company or the spokesperson, right? And I think in a previous video, I gave the example of Taylor Swift's ad campaign with CoverGirl NatureLux Foundation. So that's something that your audience needs to know. Then what else do we need to know? We need to know what the ad is for. What is the product, right? Why is it an advertisement? I also want you to think about some subtext, right? So of course, the primary goal of advertising is to convince somebody to purchase a product, right? But is there some kind of subtext, some kind of underlying message that the advertiser is trying to get across besides selling the product? So one of the examples from that website that had 12 examples of ethos, pathos, and logos in advertising, one of those was Adidas joining with Parlay. So yeah, it's talking about Adidas athletic shoes, right? But there's also the subtext of what they are trying to do, right? And it was this whole commercial about climate change and reducing the use of plastics and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the secondary message that is being presented in the ad. Is there somebody famous, right? A celebrity, somebody notable in the ad, somebody that you recognize? What is the ad doing or saying? So if you can, in one sentence, try to describe the general gist of the ad, right? Who is the audience? Again, I want you to think about who they are trying to target, not just anybody who watches the ad. Try to focus in a little bit more on who the audience is, right? Remember that advertisers are very deliberate and want to attract a certain audience. We call that the target audience or the target demographic, right? And then lastly, I want you to think about the main rhetorical strategy of the ad. Is it relying on ethos, right? That credibility of the spokesperson or the credibility of the company? Is it relying on pathos? A lot of emotional appeal, and you will see that time and again in advertising, right? Are they relying on logos, the use of facts and data to help persuade the target audience? Is there any use of kairos, right? The timeliness of the ad. So try to compose it as a complete paragraph where you're using complete sentences. I prefer it not be question and answer, but if that's easier for you, I'll accept it. It's not a problem. The purpose is to get some of the pre-writing done in preparation for the rhetorical analysis rough draft that's due next week. So if you write it in a paragraph, then the wonderful part about that, right, you've addressed all of these different things. You can use that summary paragraph after your introduction. So it gives us some context, or conversely, you can blend that summary information into an introductory paragraph. So you can recycle this information. Then this is where the baby steps are going, right? Think of it as a pre-writing exercise, once again, to help you to write the rough draft. So that task won't be as overwhelming. And again, this is due Sunday, October 12th. Okay, next thing. The next thing is the discussion board, multimodality in advertising. So here in this assignment, and hopefully you'll be able to see the image. I haven't gone into student view to double check, but I think the image should be available for you. This is an advertisement that the CDC put out several years ago. And apparently it's about the battle against whooping cough. So, promoting vaccination for certain childhood diseases. So I have some questions here below. So I want you to view the text, look at the words, look at the images, really think about it, really start to analyze. And this is where you're going to be putting your skills to use, right? Your observational skills. So I want you to look at the written words, post your observations about the written words, about any visual elements. So you can talk about what you see in the ad beyond the words. Think about colors, those kinds of things. Now, for the third and fourth, and possibly even the fifth point here, audio, movement, expressions, and gestures. I want you to imagine that you suddenly transform into a director for a commercial, and imagine that this scene that you see here becomes live. How would, what kind of audio elements would you hear, or could you imagine hearing in a commercial versus a print ad? What would they be? Think about movement. If this suddenly came to life, right? If it suddenly became a commercial, what kind of movements might you see in the commercial? And likewise with expressions and gestures. So you do see expression here. You see kind of the hint of a gesture. So you can also talk about that. So the idea here is to think about all of the different elements and how they are rhetorically effective in multimodal text, how it is effective of getting this message across to whoever the target audience might be. So I want your initial post due Sunday, October 12th, with your follow-up responses due Wednesday, the 15th. I haven't flipped my calendar yet. You can't see my calendar over my shoulder, but I'm still in September instead of October. So it tells you I'm recording in advance. So yeah, those are the two assignments. Those are the things that I wanted to talk about the most. Of course, the readings will really help you to understand this whole thing that's called multimodality. So I have some readings on what a mode is and the 5 different modes. There is also this example rhetorical analysis essay. This is where I talk about, I think, this is where a student writes about, if it'll come up, yes. This is the Taylor Swift ad that I have brought up in a couple of the different videos as an example of multimodality and the use of celebrities in advertising. So the lectures and media, of course, I have another podcast. It's AI generated, but it's based off of materials that I created myself and just kind of plugged into the AI agent. And it came out with this really fascinating podcast. It still blows my mind that this is actually possible. So rhetorical analysis and multimodality, there's a whole conversation. I think you can download it. Yeah, I have this on SoundCloud. So if you want to, you can download it or log into SoundCloud, but I don't think you absolutely need to log in order to access the file. But you can download it and listen to when you're commuting to work or, giving a kid a bath or whatever it might be. So if this appeals to you, if these kinds of audio files appeal to you, please let me know, provide me some feedback on it, and I will continue creating these kinds of materials. I like to offer many different modes, so not only text-based, right? When we think of academic classes, we often think of text-based things, but of course with online learning, we have to have different modalities, right? We have to have that video presence, right? And of course, audio materials are also very helpful. So we're not relying on any one mode to do the education, right? We have multiple things that we can choose from. Of course, for those of you who want to learn more about grammar, or you feel like you are in this course primarily to improve your grammar, we have those optional materials for grammar review. This week I have conjunctions and lists. So conjunctions are words that join two independent clauses, and this is related to comma use, as well as comma overuse. We also have, of course, information about how to format in Microsoft Word, as well as Google Docs, how to save your Google Doc as a Word file, not save it, but how to download or export your Google Doc as a Microsoft Word or PDF file so that it can be uploaded. So yeah, that is week 7 in a nutshell, probably longer than I really hoped it would be, but I wanted to make sure that you're clear on the 2 assignments that you're doing, as well as the materials that we have available this week. If you have any questions, you know how to get in touch with me. But in the meantime, have a fantastic week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.